All right, I'm going to try making this video. Don't know if I can do a good job or not, but we'll see. I'm going to show you what I think is are some good strategies for how to play a big dragons deck. Now, by big dragons, I mean dragons that have a strength of 4 or more. Let me first start by showing you the deck that I built. I'm going with just 2 scouts. Got to have at least, I feel that I have to have at least 2 scouts in the deck just because sometimes you need a scout. And I don't want many scouts in this deck. Lambton Worm, we're probably not going to be playing anymore, so this would probably be pulled out. But if my opponent is playing a Lambton Worm, I'll play one as well. And I believe in an alternate cost of changing that to 3 gold, which is just too expensive to put in a big dragons deck. The problem with a big dragons deck is you can run out of gold very easily. Very easily. You have to be very careful. Kane Qua'ana is pretty important card in this deck because if I'm going to lose a dragon that I paid 4 or more gold for, being able to discard King Qua'ana instead is a pretty big deal. You don't want to lose your big dragons because then you have to pay for another big dragon to get into a battle. And the more your big dragons lose, the quicker you run out of gold. I've played this deck maybe a dozen times, and more than half the time I've run out of gold. So it is tricky. Basilisk is in all of my decks just because it's a very, very powerful card. So the big dragons, the one big dragon that's not in here is red. There might be some other ones. Osiris isn't in here. But Heavenly Naga to protect the treasures. Wyvern just because, Force Flyer. Yellow, Sea Goat, white, Sinoprosope because he can get help, of course. And then these big old 5-strength dragons just because they're 5-strength dragons. Then a blue, best dragon in the game. Then the giant Amphis Bana and the even bigger giant Jormungandr and the flying 7-strength flying Behemoth. And then these 4 empty card slots are for my gold generation, which you have to have in this deck. Mixquaddle and 3 fields of gold. If you do not have these cards, I recommend you play proxies of these cards. I'll hold them up so that you can copy down what they say. Find some generic terrains and call them Field of Gold, and find a dragon that has a blank text on it and say Mixquaddle. Now, we're changing Mixquaddle. We think this is a ridiculous ability. We're changing it to his attacking strength is half your gold rounded up. On turn 1, when you pay 6 gold, if you haven't spent any other gold, you have 19 gold. And he attacks at 19. With my altered rule, he's still a 10. That's still really powerful. If you have 12 gold when you pay for this guy, he's still a 6 when you're attacking. That's still really, really good. 19 is absurd. His base is 0. Power Switch and Medea's spell do nothing. The 19 is his current strength. Medea's spell, Power Switch do not affect that. He's immune to it. He is extremely difficult to beat when you are defending. You can beat him. It is possible. Poison Chalice would be the obvious card that would beat him. But this, when you reducing it to half, at least makes it a little bit more, a little less overpowered. Let's put it that way. So that is my how we will be playing Mixquaddle from this point forward, more than likely. Unfortunately, we have not been playing much because we are having the hardest time getting anyone other than me and my one friend to come and play Wyvern, even though I've got 6 people who are all interested in playing. It's just they just don't have the time. There's always something going on, and it's been very, very frustrating. I've yet to have our 4-player tournament that I've been trying to have for months. All right, back to this deck. So what you want to do with this deck is, again, you want to keep these big dragons from dying. Very, very difficult. Now, we have a new rule. We're only going with 2 copies of Golden Apples, Night, and Fountains of Youth. Currently, I have 4 Nights, 2 Golden Apples, and 0 Fountains of Youth. So I'm going to take out 2 Nights and replace them with 2 Fountains of Youth. The problem is, as you can see over here, I'm running 8 treasures. So that would be 10 treasures, and you've only got 4 treasure slots. Fortunately, these 4 are temporary. So I might be able to make it work. I should be able to make it work. But you have to be able to keep your dragons alive or cancel the battle so they don't. Anything to keep them from dying, because again, now you've got to bring in another dragon to fight with, and that's going to cost you a lot of gold to bring in another dragon. The less dragons you use, the less likely you'll run out of gold. If you end up going through 3 or 4 of your dragons, you're done. You don't have any gold left. So how do we get around that? Well, this was the big treasure, which is a temporary thing because your opponent will get to use it and then it will get discarded. And now my dragon effectively only will cost 2 gold, not a ridiculous amount. So let's just grab one and let me explain this. So you have this 5 strength dragon, you want to attack with it, but you don't want to pay the 5 gold. So you play Runic Tablet. In your action phase, you activate the card. The next game activity you perform is free. The problem right there is your opponent could now play something in the action phase and you can't respond. Like I just realized I don't have magnetic field in here. Magnetic field should be in here. Let me just double check something. Yeah, there's 4 magnetic fields and 4 gold digs in the deck. So they won't show up on camera. So if your opponent plays something in the action phase, you can't counter it with magnetic field because you just spent 2 gold to play this and you've activated this. So this is their one shot to play something and you can't spend any money. As soon as you go to the battle phase, you attack with your dragon, you bring it up, and you don't have to pay for it. It's free. And then they get the Runic Tablet and they get 1 use for it too. That's the only risky part of Runic Tablet. But this is very critical to the deck because it makes your dragons very affordable. The fact that your opponent gets a chance at it is not that big of a deal. The next thing is, and I might increase this to 3, is that sometimes your dragons are going to die. No matter how many Knights and Golden Apples and Fountains of Youth you use, sometimes you're going to die. If Basilisk hits them, they just die. You can't save them from Basilisk. You can't do anything. So this is critical. If they're going to die, you get their gold plus their any gold symbols. So if the card costs, so that one's you're just going to get 7 less the 2. You got to pay 2 for Last Will and Testament. So you pay 2. So white is going to die. So you get back 6. So you're up. You made 4 gold. White dies, but you got 4 of the 6 gold back. So that is this can be important. I would probably, if I make a sideboard for this, I would probably have 2 more in the sideboard. Because if game 1 is like they're just killing my dragons, like dragon slaying them or whatever they're doing, I might go, I'm going to need more of these because I'm going to run out of gold so darn fast. The other thing you can do, which I think is good for this deck, is because when you attack with big dragons, you're winning. So you're certainly trying to win the battles, and every time somebody wins, they get 2 gold. If your opponent wins, they get 2 gold. You don't care. You want to win and get 2 gold. That it's more important for you. It might be important for your opponent. Your opponent certainly isn't upset when he sees you playing this, except that if he's trying to make you run out of gold, now he's going to have a hard time making you run out of gold. If that is his goal, 2 more of these in the sideboard might be a good idea. Because in game 2, you want to make sure, like if he's draining your gold, you want to bring these in. Like if they're playing a scout deck and they're just attacking you and you have to pay for all these big dragons that they keep hitting, that can make you run out of gold really, really fast. The last one to generate gold is Dwarven Legion. Now, there's only 2 in here, and again, I might put 2 in the sideboard. If I build a sideboard, that might be another one where I put 2 in. So now, of course, with Mixquaddle with a 19 strength, this is absurdly ridiculous. At 10 strength on turn 1, it's still really, really good. But you can generate a lot of gold with Dwarven Legion. What I love about these cards, all these, Nibelungs and Albrecht, and yeah, those 2 as well. The person who benefits is the one who wins. So your opponent could benefit from this. Same with Nibelungs and Albrecht. You can look those cards up. And you'll see that they're a little risky, but the payoff is huge. 3 gold for +2 strength is a bad rate. You would never play that card. But the ability with big dragons, you could get 4, 5, 6 gold, and that's huge. So that is the other key. Now, we need to win. What are the best ways to win with big dragons? Well, if you play Marduk, nobody can play battle action cards. You attack, whoever's in the lead wins, which means you're going to win. So 4 copies. 4 copies of Marduk. I could run Whirlpools and Apollos. I don't want to spend any gold. 4 Meteor Showers. Free cards. Not going to play Whirlpool and Meteor Shower and Apollos, which would mean I got to pay gold to draw cards. Meteor Shower is going to do it. That's what I need. Then, the other great card that is not normally used in Constructed is Possession Spell. If there's a face-up dragon, if I've got a big face-up dragon or my opponent that's not in the battle, I can possess that strength for 1 gold. So this is really good when I've got an extra face-up dragon, an extra big dragon face-up, I should say. This is a very effective way to add, struggling with words, to add a lot of power to the battle, to win the battle. This can really help you win. The problem is it's a little hard to get to make it work. I might want to go down to 2 copies because of how tricky it is to make work. But I definitely don't want to do 4. It's 2 or 3. I'm not really sure. And then once you have 1 big dragon in your discard pile because he got killed or swapped out, then you just have Possession from Beyond. So this one I do run 4 because it's always there. Now, a terrain could replace it. There will be times when there won't be. So maybe I should only run 3. But this is another way to fight. I'm not going to fight plain strength modifiers other than Dwarven Legion. Despite the 3 gold cost, you play this when it makes you gold, not when you're not playing this necessarily to win the battle. You're playing this to get the gold. But if you have to, you'll play it to win the battle and just not make any gold. Lastly is Thor's Hammer, and we're running 4. Double the base strength of the dragon. Now that, again, this is 2 gold. So this is a big drain. You can only play 1 Thor's Hammer per battle. But this is these cards, Possession Spells and the Thor's Hammer, are 1, 1, and 2, and these are huge pumps in battle, which you really need. Now, the other 3 cards I'm playing in this deck are my 1 Volcanic Eruption. This just for fun, but it can really work. Help from Beyond. It's just a fun card. You don't need this card in the deck. And then Kiss, just because if they do happen to slay the dragon, hopefully I'll have Kiss in my hand. It might not be needed. It should probably be in the sideboard. Oh yes, and then last. Now again though, 2 gold. But now all my dragons can help each other. That's huge. That's really, really huge. The problem is how many, you really don't want to be fighting with more than 2 dragons. And these things cost 2 gold. So this is why you run out of gold fast. There is a card that you could try, and it's called Midas. I forget the exact words, but it's something to the effect of you discard the dragon that's in your battlefield, so you lose the battle position, but you gain gold equal to the dragon's strength. I think it's strength plus gold pieces, gold symbols. I don't remember. regardless, you could get 5, 6 gold, 7 gold from Midas, but you lose the battle position. But if I was at 0, 1, or 2 gold, I might have to give up that battle position just to get that kind of gold so that I can keep playing the deck. So Midas would probably go in my sideboard as well. Maybe even 2 copies. And lastly, and this is just more for the fun, the enjoyment of the game, nothing like playing Battle Chaos in your Big Dragons deck, and nothing like running out of gold really fast. I don't recommend this. Maybe 1 so that you could bring in a second Big Dragon. Of course, if you've got Heavyweight Alliance, you can already bring them in because they can all help each other. So you don't really need Battle Chaos, but it's kind of fun. But the key to Big Dragons is you need gold. You need to keep them alive. You don't want them dying. They're going to die, but you want to minimize the death and you want to minimize the cost. This is, in my opinion, this might be the most important card in this deck because it makes my dragons cost 2 gold instead of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 if I'm playing red, which red definitely belongs in this deck. But his ability is keyed off of strength modifiers, and the only strength modifiers are this, and that's why he's not in the deck. But he's a big dragon, and he costs 8 gold, which works really, really well with Midas and works really, really well with Last Will and Testament. So he does fit in the deck despite the fact that I only have 2 strength modifiers. And I would have 2 more in the sideboard because why not? You might need those Dwarven Legions. So that's pretty much the strategy when playing with big dragons, how to avoid running out of gold. They're going to hit you with Power Switch. They're going to hit you with Poison Chalice. They're going to hit you with Magnetic Fields. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. But if you can at least generate gold and not run out of gold, you should be able to continue to give them headaches with big dragons because you're always behind when you go up against big dragons. You always start out behind, and so it's on your opponent to have something. And if you've got Magnetic Field in your hand and at least 2 gold in your hand, then you're in really, really good shape. So it's these little things about managing your gold and being very, very careful, knowing sometimes you got to swap out. Swap out to get the card in the discard pile. That's one reason you swap out. So now you've got a dragon in your discard pile, a big dragon. Make sure you try to get an extra dragon face up so that you can use Possession Spell in battle. And that's really it. Then it's just the golden apples, the knights, and the fountains of youth to keep them alive, and hopefully the Oriental Princess to keep getting you some gold periodically. Your opponent's going to win some battles and get the gold too, but that's a trade-off. You have to be willing to make that. So that's my advice for how to effectively run a Big Dragons deck and hopefully not run out of gold. The number one problem with Big Dragons decks, you go broke fast. Number one problem. The problem with little dragons is you're usually starting behind. But you tend to not run out of gold because they're little dragons. But then again, if you're playing Power Switch, Medea Spell, Poison Chalice, Magnetic Field, you'll still run out of gold. You'll still run out of gold fast. Not as fast as you will with the Big Dragons deck. All right. Hope this was helpful. Any questions, any comments at all? Thoughts, anything, share, feel free, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.